Good morning, good evening, wherever you are joining us. I'm speaking to you from London, from the United Kingdom. I'm joined by my fellow Professor Boyd Cray. We're part of the Stephen R. Covey Institute at the Huntsman Business School at Utah State University. Welcome to the world's principled-centered leaders. And today we're joined by Okendo Lewis-Gayle. Okendo Lewis-Gayle is a remarkable, captivating, and fascinating individual. And in order to give a little bit of precision on the kind of man that he is, here he is being interviewed by Reuters in 2019, in which he discusses some of his work. And then we'll go into an interview with Okendo Lewis-Gayle. So, Okendo, we've got a little pen portrait of you there from an interview in 2019 with Thomson Reuters when you were in London. But you move around the world pretty constantly. You are in Cape Town right now in South Africa. You were having dinner with billionaires last night. You live in Rome. You've graduated from Harvard. You often turn up at the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland and hang out with political leaders. Who are you? Are you an American, an African, an Italian? What is your heritage and what's your purpose?
Oh, gosh. Well, first of all, thank you, Lord, for having me. And thank you all for putting up with me. I hope I could be of service in any way, shape, or form. You must know that one of my first jobs was actually working at the Vatican. So I like to joke that I serve at the mercy of the Pope and at the pleasure of the Lord. And, you know, Lord Hastings has been so absolutely generous to this alliance that I often joke that Lord Michael Hastings, commander of the British Empire, defender of the faith, and by the grace of God, king of the Harambeans, he's been so good to us that when we say thank you, Lord, we mean Lord Michael Hastings. So thank you, Lord. Thank you for having me. To your question, I would say that, you know, in terms of purpose and my identity and my work, it probably only a global citizen would create a Pan-African and global alliance. You see, I was born in Costa Rica, raised in Italy, educated in Taiwan and the US, and now, of course, I work all over Africa. So I like to joke I'm the reason why Trump wants to build that wall. I'm just too complicated. People kind of expect you to pick a country and stick with it. But I at the heart of it, as you think about how my upbringing has influenced me, you really can see that I'm part of Africa's historical diaspora, you know, and the 12 million Africans who were shipped at the height of the transatlantic slave trade from across Africa to the Americas. And it sort of comes, and as someone who's grown up in so many different parts of the world, it's really come natural to me to bring together African entrepreneurs from across the length and breadth of the continent with investors who are seeking to support their mission. So, you know, I think it was Aristotle who said, right, that happiness is when you find both the needs of the world and what you have to offer. When they intersect, that's where it's at. And I have to say, I feel extremely fortunate to have found that intersection.
You've created this remarkable network, this family called Harambe. Tell us what Harambe means. It's a Swahili word, but what does it mean? But what actually is it? And give us an example of what you've done, what they've done.
No, thank you. Well, Harambe is, yes, Swahili for working together as one. And so the Harambeans are simply the people who choose to work together. Mm-hmm. And in terms of sort of what we do, and a prime example, I often like to joke, actually I joked at the dinner last night that you alluded to earlier, that, you know, there's this age-old debate between optimists and pessimists. You see, the optimists like to say, they like to see an opportunity in every difficulty, while the pessimists see a difficulty in every single opportunity. But some of us who call ourselves Harambeans, well, we see nothing but opportunity. So in a way, what the Alliance is about is building bridges and around these innovators, right? As we call them, these market creating innovators. There's a number of challenges and opportunities across the continent. And most folks just want to sit around and complain, and others really run right into them. And we simply are trying to build an ecosystem that can identify these, as we call them, market creating innovators, these entrepreneurs that can help build solutions that have global impact and global reach. But not just identify, ensure that they have the resources necessary to succeed. And it's very critical for Africa's success, but not just the continent, I say the world. You know, I often joke that before China had Alipay and America had Apple Pay, Kenya had M-Pesa. And if this alliance is successful, China will not need Alipay nor America Apple Pay, because we will be able to scale M-Pesa worldwide, right? This is about not just identifying solutions that can contribute to the challenges and opportunity in Africa, but ensuring that we can scale them across the length and breadth of really Africa and across the globe.
You know these Harambeans so very, very well. I've met many of them. I've seen them with you. Just pick maybe one of the stories that has flourished.
Well, I because I'm here in Cape Town, and for those of you who have never been to Cape Town, you must have, I always like to describe Cape Town is what would happen if Beverly Hills in Tuscany had sex. It's spectacular. You've got the glamour, you've got the vineyards. I highly recommend it. Come on down, people. But one example is right here. It's a company called Yoko. And one of the challenges in this country, you have a first world economy living next to a third world economy. And oftentimes, most folks are not participating in the financial sector. And so this Harambean saw that, and yet many of these small businesses in the townships are, transacting, but they were not able to get the visas and be able to at least get paid through visas because they didn't have it. And so here comes Yoko that says, well, that's not a challenge, that's an opportunity, and develop these little machines that now everywhere you go in South Africa, in rural South Africa, in the big cities like Cape Town, you see this payment machinery that is all of a sudden magically bringing in hundreds of thousands of South Africans who were not participating in the global economy. And that's what Harambeans are doing, right? We're creating products and services, not just for the 80 million Africans in the middle class, but the 800 million who are not currently participating in the global economy, right? And that is the real challenge that all of us ultimately face. And I can tell you, if we can figure out, if these Harambeans can figure out how to deliver healthcare to people who can't afford it, how to deliver education to folks for whom is out of reach, that has implications not just for the peoples in Lagos and Johannesburg and Nairobi, but folks really right across the world. And so I think what's happening here on the continent and what the work that Harambeans are doing by transforming, again, these challenges into opportunities is really very important for the entire world.
And just tell everyone very briefly the story of Mr. Kwame Williams, who was at MIT, and what he achieved at MIT and what he's really doing now.
Oh gosh, that is the story. It's a gift that keeps on giving. You must know, I told the story to the CEO of Cisco and Davos, and the Lord was there, and she was so inspired that she actually proceeded to give us $5 million to scale up the operation. So it's what you must know. The story of Mr. Williams is captured in the book on Harambeans called Harambeans, Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. And the first chapter of the book is called Servant Leadership. And I zoom into the story of Kwame Williams because he's really a prime example of what Harambeans are attempting to do, of being servant leaders. Here is a guy who had migrated from Ghana to the United States because of his parents. And while they sacrificed a great deal so he could do so. His mother, once they got to the US did not recognize their educational or work experience. And so they had to start from scratch. And so the mother worked as had to go back to school with people who were often 20 to 30 years younger than her. And his father, who was a banker in Ghana, well, he had to go work as a security guard at MIT. But they made all the sacrifices thinking, well, we will make sure that our son has a great education in America, and then somehow he will make sure that we're all taken care of. Well, this gentleman, Mr. Kwame Williams, the son, gets to the United States and manages to actually get admitted into MIT. And while at MIT, he then takes a trip back to Ghana as part of a missionary group. And there falls and discovers the challenges of farmers in rural Ghana. And they all have this thing called moringa seeds that is ubiquitous all across Ghana. All 10 regions of Ghana have it, but the farmers are not monetizing it. And because of technology that he had been exposed to, he said, actually, I can help these farmers transform these seeds into products that can be sold worldwide. And so he decided to take this on. And the company's now called Moringa Connect, and that's just that. It takes the moringa, makes it into tea and then beauty products. But before he did this, he had to tell his parents that he was going to turn down. What you must know, he not only had gotten to MIT, he actually was studying aerospace engineering. So he was on his way to NASA, had done an internship to NASA. And then he tells his parents, oh, by the way, I'm going back to Ghana to work with rural farmers. And as I write in the book, his parents were in tears. His mother was in tears. His mother could not believe it because she, in a sense, felt that all of the hopes and aspirations that they had, that they were all going to waste. And that was a very difficult moment. But when the parents confronted him on why are you doing this, he told them, I'm ultimately doing what you taught me how to do through your example. Because he told the stories, several stories, and where he'd seen his parents put the interest of others ahead of his own. And so when the mother was in tears, he said, but I'm simply doing, Mom, I'm doing what you taught me how to do. And, the parents would say, okay, but they're still skeptical. And they, this was their son. They cared deeply about him. And so what's the beautiful part of the story is that as the company kept growing, the father actually moved back to Ghana to work with Moringa Connect. And the mother, he says, well, she was so inquisitive that she was like technically his chief financial officer, the CFO of the company. And so, and actually end the story on how when Obama was president, he organized an entrepreneurship summit in Kenya. And of the hundreds of entrepreneurs who were there, a number of them were Harambeans, and a few of them won the awards, including Mr. Kwame Williams, who got from this Global Entrepreneurship Summit, I believe it was called, the Impact Award. And he literally takes this award that he'd gotten from the president back to his mama. And that was, to me, such a powerful story to demonstrate, the fights that we all must endure if we're going to breathe life into new ideas. And I think they're always hardest when they're of people who are closest to us. So Mr. Williams, I think, is really just an example of many folks across the continent, around the world, who are taking on the big fights.
Now, Okendo, many people who know you very well, and I know you very well, say that you have no fear. You just sort of get in everywhere you possibly can, even if you're uninvited. And I remember when you bounced in on the German cabinet, that was, and you took a selfie with the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, when other people were standing back in panic. So you have enormous confidence. What are the principles that you've chosen to lead your life by that govern this confidence that you've got?
We're very kind of you. I think I might still be our security threat in Germany, I think. It wasn't just Merkel, it was the entire cabinet. But we had a good time. I would say, I think it was Albert Einstein who said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and he who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. And I think what you're really seeing is the result of a process, right? I sort of first crawled, then ran, and I'm now sort of flying. I mean, one of the things I saw early on, for me, I call it this idea, this notion of transforming ideas into action. Something that might just be a chemical reaction in your brain can take a life of its own and begin to impact the world around you. And it can be very addictive. And the first time I've experienced that I fully recollect was when I was an undergrad in New Hampshire. I helped organize an event in honor of Rosa Parks, who had just passed away. And we had to fight a number of fights to get through this, partly because the president of the university was trying to organize an event prior to that that fallen apart. And we only had a month to go before Dr. Martin Luther King's day in America. And no one believed that this could be done. And there was no money. And somehow we managed to pull this together. And I never forget at the end of that journey, walking into the auditorium of the university and seeing, literally they had buses from local high schools coming to the university because the event had become so popular. And there was this beautiful floral picture of Rosa Parks and the floral arrangement. And we were so shocked that we just have to sit there looking at this and saying, oh my goodness, this was just an idea in our minds. But then what made that moment so meaningful and transformative, at least for me, is that we had at the end of the event, a soccer player from our team, who was from Jamaica, came up to me in tears, Lord Hastings, came up to me in tears and said, thank you. And then when you realize, right, that not only can you have ideas that can impact the world, but these ideas can touch people so deeply and transform their lives, then you're like, I want more. And right, and so everything else was just the result of that, meaning, you get other ideas, you find your limitations and you grow, and then you want more and more, and then they call you a magician because everybody just thinks that you can do anything. But reality is that it's those baby steps, that nurturing process that has gotten me here. And so I just, the way I think about it, right, is compounding interest. It's you do it once and then you save some more and then you're a billionaire. I'm not there yet.
Over to you.
It's so good to have you with us, Okendo. Question for you. As you think about the potential of young leaders like our students here have embedded within them, what are your essential guideposts for young leaders to ensure that they can actually live an extraordinary life, take on world challenges? Where should they start?
Oh, gosh. Well, thank you for that question. I think it was Nietzsche, who said, he who has a why can endure anyhow. And I genuinely think that it's about connecting with your why, because no matter, and we see it every year, you must understand, in this alliance, we're very fortunate. We get over this year almost 5,000 applications. And out of those 5,000, we have to select 30 who become the Harambeans. And each time what you see is these folks, particularly in the early stages of their ventures, there's some folks who get admitted and they already raised millions of dollars, and it's very clear that they have found their purpose and what they're fighting for, and the world is starting to gather them. But at the early ones, what we look for is people who have answered the why. And just recently admitting a lady from the University of Pennsylvania, a Nigerian, and was in very early stage, and there was this debate in the admission committee, is she ready to be a Harambe at the venture? She's not fully there yet. But, when we started talking to her about her why, we were all, some of the people on the team were in tears, and she welled up as well. And you could see that she had found, her calling. And I think part of it is trying to find, what is it that you care deeply about? And once you have, and that's important because you see, no matter how good the plan is, it will take longer than you think. It will be harder than you can even imagine. And so unless you have a reason to fight for this, the truth is you'll probably throw in the towel at, if not the first, the second or third hurdle. But if you have something that is worth fighting for, and as you think about what it is, these experiences that you have early in life is so important, right? Because they begin to, so as you think about how do I get to knowing my why, it's just try different things, right? Expose yourself, take positions of leadership. And in that process is where you begin to discover what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, what you absolutely hate to do. And then you can gradually get to that intersection that I mentioned earlier, right? Of happiness, of purpose in what you can contribute to the world.
Tremendous. So, Okendo, you've obviously discovered a big why for yourself in releasing the potential of Africa. And so what is it about the continent of Africa that has drawn your heart, your mind, your passion, your soul into releasing this network of entrepreneurs? What is it?
Oh my goodness, that's a beautiful question. For me, I am a historian by training who grew up in Rome in the shadow of the Colosseum, studying at Julius Caesar Lyceum, studying Latin and Greek, reading Plato and Aristotle in the original language, and reading about the exploits of Alexander the Great. And at some point, I got sick about reading all these people. I said, gosh, let's bring on our own challenge. And what I love about this continent of ours is that, there are people who believe that this is home to the poorest people on the planet. And by the end of the century, that will still be the case, because the challenges are so insurmountable that there's nothing you can do. The odds are against us, they believe. And I just love that challenge, I have to tell you, partly because I grew up in Rome. And, think about it. Rome used to be the New York, Beijing, and London of its time combined. And now it's just a beautiful open museum, right? And if you've asked the Romans at the height of their empire whether the sun would ever set on their empire, they would have never ever conceived of that. Things can change, Professor. Things can change, and we know, as Mandela said, right, that our greatest fear is knowing that we're powerful beyond measure. We can change these things, and I got to tell you, I just love the fact that this is so large and the challenge that people, the odds are against us, and so bring it on. And I think that's here. And then again, you're talking to someone who spends most of his time with crazy innovators who are trying to bring about new solutions in healthcare, in education, you name it. And these people believe it can be done. And our journey started 14 years ago, and no one believed. First, they didn't believe that people would take on the challenge, and they believe even if they take on the challenge, no one would invest in them. And then, we now have thousands of people applying, and people like Mark Zuckerberg come along and invest $24 million in these companies. And so, yes, we can. Professor, bring it out.
Well, Okendo, your passion and your soul drive to serve and to release potential is infectious and inspiring. So this has been a gift for us. I turn it back to my friend, Lord Hastings.
Thank you.
So just very briefly, Okendo, a final question to you, which is this October, you're going to be at the Vatican again with the Pope, and he hosts a gathering of Harambeans every year. And clearly, you've embedded the heart of your principles, your values, and your faith into what you do. How important is it for you to have space to have that vivid, real faith, as well as all the things that you believe about practically?
Well, you see, for me, I guess this is partly influenced by my grandmother. You see, my grandmother is a Bible-bagging Baptist who's been preaching in America since the cotton-picking days. And this is the kind of person that drives to Walmart and says, thank you, God, for getting me here. And if you ever hang out with the Baptists, they believe in this idea of predestination, that long before we were born, God had a plan, long before you were conceived, and that our job is to find that calling. What is it that we're meant to do? And so I think, for me, faith is the best insurance nobody can buy. I go to bed knowing that there's a covenant of sorts that says, as long as you do your best, God will do the rest, right? That I know every day there's something I must accomplish. There's something I have to do. We had, as you mentioned, this billionaire dinner yesterday, and we prepared for this, and we thought about all the details. And I know that all I have to do in that dinner was my utmost best. And then there's some forces in the universe that conspire to make sure that everything else falls into place. The things that you don't control. I kid you not, at this dinner last night, there was a wildfire behind the mountain. And as we were driving into Friendship, I thought we had to cancel this dinner. And Lord, you're not gonna believe this. The wind in the morning was blowing right over the venue of our dinner. By the time we got there, the wind was blowing in the other direction. And so you had deep blue sky over us. And then on the other side, you had a wildfire. And I kid you not, it was so powerful. I had to use it as a metaphor in the dinner because I told everybody it is perhaps a divine omen that behind that very mountain, a wildfire burns, because we've got work to do. In a sense, these Harambeans are the firefighters that can help us put out these fires across the continent. And I can tell you, I, first of all, did not start that fire just so I could put it in the speech. I want to make sure everybody knows that. And then the magic of that moment, it was very clear I had no control over that fire. I had no control over that fire. And for me, that's what faith does, right? That you must do your best of the things you can control, and God will always do the rest.
Okendo Lewis-Gayle, thank you so much for being with us. Go back to enjoying Cape Town in South Africa. Thank you for the wisdom that you brought. Thank you, all of you who've joined us on the world's principle-centered leaders from the Stephen R. Covey Institute at Utah State University. Join us again. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys. God bless.
Thank you, Okendo. You're a blessing.
God bless you. I hope I didn't bore you all to death.
No.
That was wonderful.
No chance of that.
Full of beans. Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
go back to looking after them. Thank you so much.
All right. God bless you. Have fun, folks.
All right.